Hello and welcome to round 6 here at Grand Prix Santa Clara. Maria Bartholdi here in the booth, joined by Pro Tour champion Jacob Van Lunen. There you see on the left side of the screen the teams we'll be watching first this round: Kubin-Phan-Campusano versus Nettles-Wijaya-Anghelescu. Both teams currently undefeated here in round 6. As the number of undefeated teams get smaller and smaller as we go through the day, we're going to start, as we normally do here on modern table B, Tuan-Phan versus Widjaja. Standard there is on table A, and Legacy down on the bottom there, table C.
So we saw this deck last round, I believe, in the hands of Seth Manfield. Widjaja is playing the blue-white mana denial deck that has been doing quite well.
Interesting.
This is a control deck. Its main path to victory oftentimes is using cards like Spreading Seas, Field of Ruin to deny the opponent's mana base, especially in a matchup like this where so many of Phan's cards only cost 1 or 2 mana and have a very large color requirement. So once it, severely disrupts the opponent's mana base, it's able to win the game however it pleases, and it has some nice card advantage engines as its endgame. The big one being Sphinx's Revelation, but it can also just end the game by playing a Planeswalker, such as Gideon Jora, Jace Architect of Thought, or by simply attacking with Snapcaster Mage.
And there you get a look at Widjaja's hand with plenty of those tools you just mentioned, Jacob. Field of Ruin, we have Detention Sphere, Ruined Halo, we have a Negate and a Spell Snare, and there's, well, Ruined Halo is going to be the choice off of this Thoughtseize from Phan. Is he on Death's Shadow? We'll take a look here. All right, passing the turn back over to Widjaja, playing his Field of Ruin. All right, Serum Visions here from Phan.
So Widjaja going to go ahead and negate that Serum Visions. Turned out to be a wise call here because no second land for Phan.
And what would be Widjaja's decision-making around negating that Serum Vision so early? Thought Scour here from Phan.
Well, it might lead you to believe that Widjaja has a number of cards that cost 2 mana in his hand, and he's just trying to, play his cards turn after turn here. There you see the Thoughtseize, and again, he's got a lot of cards in his hand that are kind of stranded in his hand because Widjaja's deck is much more mana-hungry than most modern decks. So he really wants to be using all of his mana on every turn. He's missing these land drops, so he can, take advantage of this situation by simply using his mana in any way any way he can. So here he's just going to play Snapcaster Mage as a 2/1 flash because otherwise he's just going to not be doing anything with his mana, and then once he does draw his lands, all of his cards are just going to be clogged up in his hand and not do anything.
All right, Detention Sphere is the grab off of this Thoughtseize from Phan. Snapcaster Mage, as you mentioned, now in play for Widjaja as well, which we've certainly seen Snapcaster Mage do plenty of work here this weekend already. It's interesting, I haven't actually seen a deck like Widjaja's in action yet. It's pretty cool to see. Snapcaster beats in for 2.
Yeah, I mean, this blue-white deck is so counterintuitive when you look at the deck list. I mean, they're playing cards like Field of Ruin, and
there goes
Path
one.
to Exile, alongside cards like Spreading Seas, and it doesn't seem like what you would want to be doing, but the way the actual matches play out, the types of mana bases that you're facing off against when you're playing Modern, the deck actually works quite well. I've lost to it a healthy amount on the internet. So,
Field of Ruin is going to take down one of Phan's lands, going to find a basic there in his deck, as does Widjaja. Pretty nice looking basic as well.
I prefer the new ones.
Which one would you run? Which island would you run?
Unstable.
Ooh, I really like them too. Have you seen a foil yet?
I have. It's really pretty.
Oh, I haven't seen one. Another Serum Visions here from Phan. Taking a look. Oh yeah, looks nice. Looks nice. I'll just imagine the foil of that.
Yeah. All those birds, they're very lucky to be by such a beautiful island. There's probably a lot of food there for them.
All right, a
Get out of the
Tassiger,
water.
the Golden Fang, looks like is the play for Fawn here. Able to cast that thanks to Delve.
Now, Wijaya was, he didn't draw, Spreading Seas, which is one of the more important cards for him to have in his opening hand
Sure.
here. So the way he's going to have to win this game is, his initial plan was to just be aggressive with Snapcaster Mage. But now that there's a Tasker on the other side of the table, he might need to take the risk of giving his opponent a big mana advantage, which Fawn could take advantage of with something like Kolagon's Command, or via Path Exile, or he's just going to have to end up Supreme Verdicting away his own Snapcaster Mage, thus giving up his game plan of being aggressive.
Well, down goes Supreme Verdict thanks to the third Thoughtseize that Fawn has played so far this game. If you are wondering about the Thoughtseize Inquisition count, at least for the times that I and JVL are in the booth, it's currently at 13. Another Field of Ruin activation here for Widjaja.
And I doubt Fawn's going to have another basic land in his deck at this point. Grixis Shadow, usually just with one island and one swamp in there. Fawn taking the opportunity to shuffle his deck, though. It's a cathartic experience.
At least at this point in the tournament.
You also get to look through your deck. So you get to be like, my deck's pretty good.
Yeah.
And give yourself a little boost of confidence.
And there's that Fatal Push to take care of the Snapcaster Mage. Tassiger will swing in here for 4. Widjaja just going to pass the turn back to Fawn.
Looks like Widjaja did find another copy of Supreme Verdict here. He doesn't have the 4th line to play it, though.
Meanwhile, Tasker getting in to the red zone once again, and an update from the legacy table. Campuzano is up a game over Anghelescu. Serum Visions here for Widjaja.
Yeah, looking desperately for that 4th land. The nice part about Supreme Verdict is that you don't have to worry about it getting Stubborn Denial because it cannot be countered. It is kind of a way out of the woods here. But even if he is able to do that, Fawn seems to have found himself in a winning position here over the long term. If he's able to find a red source, I believe he does have a Kolagon's Command in hand now.
Yes, he does.
And that can put him in a pretty advantageous situation.
Widjaja just throws the turn back over to Fawn. Tassiger once again just keeps getting in there. Back to Widjaja. Down to 6.
You'll notice that Fawn has a copy of Death Shadow in hand, but is not playing it. Instead, choosing to play around the board sweeper that he knows Widjaja has access to. Here, Fawn getting rewarded for not
there we
playing
see
that
it.
Death Shadow.
Death Shadow here from Fawn. Teamer Battle Rage in hand.
And that's a 9/9 Death Shadow. And because of Teamer Battle Rage, a blocker will not be good enough for Widjaja here. He's going to actually need a spell that gets that Death Shadow off the table, or something like a Gideon Jura that would force it to attack him. Although that's not the best answer because it would essentially just die right away and then give Fawn another turn.
I've definitely seen Gideon Jura used in kind of those last-ditch situations to buy yourself another turn.
And the thing is, if Fawn has a card like Stubborn Denial, then
And he
there's
does.
not really an answer.
All right, let's see if Fawn can get the job done here. Cryptic Command, Stubborn Denial. And that'll do it. Fawn will pick up the first game over Wijjaja. All of his team currently up 1 game over the other team. Everybody also currently shuffling.
Yeah, Anghelescu, as we said earlier, over 7,000 matches of Legacy under his belt as he entered the Mox 2 years ago. Here, down a game. His
Yeah,
Legacy
sometimes
matches.
not even 7,000 will help.
It's unbelievable how Magic's like that.
Well, it's one of the things that makes Magic the best game.
I absolutely agree.
Interested to see what Anghelescu might be packing at this tournament.
We can check right now.
All right, let's take a look.
It looks like he is playing Sneak and Show. He's playing one of the versions that does have access to Omniscience.
Okay, and you mentioned that earlier.
And one of the nice parts about playing a card like Omniscience in the Show and Tell deck is that you can put the Omniscience into play when you cast the Show and Tell, and then when you cast the Emerald Call the Ian's Turn, you'll actually take the extra turn.
Sure.
And that will, make it much easier to win the game. Because sometimes, you both put something into play.
Right.
And then you end up losing. They can set up a terminus for the following turn, so on and so forth. There are things that can happen. But if the card you're putting into play is Omniscience, then it's extremely difficult to lose the game.
Sneak and Show, one of the more popular decks we've seen so far this weekend from Legacy players.
Yeah, I think a lot of players were looking for a deck that was proactive because they weren't overly familiar with the format, but at the same time they wanted to be able to leverage their skill ability by playing with cards like Brainstorm and Force of Will, etc.
All right, let's check in on Standard here. Table A, Ryan Cuban versus Logan Nettles. Both players currently attuning. Classic start to Standard in this day and age.
Yeah, so Logan Nettles on a more traditional version of Teamer Energy, while Ryan Cuban here is playing a 4-color energy deck, and he's playing Nicole Bolas Godpharaoh.
Ooh.
Which is my favorite card to see in the feature match area in Standard currently.
Maybe we'll get a chance to see it here.
I would hope so.
Were the Virtuosos able to stick here for Logan Nettles? There's a look at Nicol Bolas himself, the God Pharaoh, the Doctor of Doom, the egg-headed Rogue Refiner for Cuban.
Those are some nice abilities.
Oh,
and Nicol Bolas has there.
I mean, if you're Nicol Bolas, you're not going to have any second-rate ability. Give me a break.
That's true. That's true.
You're a God Pharaoh.
I remember when it was just a creature a long time ago.
When he was a librarian.
Yeah. He's just a reader.
Just reading some books.
A bookish dude.
Those were the days. He has much grander dreams these days than to get through a chapter.
Tune with Ether is, one of the premier cards in the Standard format. The way it sets up the mana for these decks and makes these cards so much more powerful.
All right, we're going to move over to our Legacy table now, because we said we wanted to get a chance to see Anghelescu do his thing with so many matches of Legacy under his belt. And we just don't get to see it as much. And here we go. Show and Tell on the table here for Anghelescu.
What will we see we put into play? I mean, we could still see counter magic here from Campuzano.
And sure enough, there we go.
And it's good enough.
Show and Tell not resolving this time for Anghelescu.
Looks like Campuzano is on a version of Stoneblade here. It's a Esper control deck that takes advantage of Stoneforge Mystic.
What fun things is Stoneforge finding? Just the usual suspects?
Yeah, it's usually just a Batterskull and a Jit. Believe this is a Containment Priest.
Yes.
An incredible sideboard card against these decks. The cruelty of Campuzano having a Containment Priest that's not in English. I didn't even know those existed. Flash, if a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile instead.
Brutal.
Super strong against Show and Tell, against Sneak Attack, against Through the Breach. Basically anything that Anghelescu wants to do, Containment Priest does a very good job of dealing with. Now, one thing that Anghelescu can do, however, is cast Show and Tell and put Omniscience into play. And if he's able to do that, then he can cast Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, and it is actually cast. So, still
hope.
Yes. And Anghelescu also has removal spells, I'm sure, which could interact.
Thoughtseize here. Going to get rid of that Grizzlebrand.
And Anghelescu, a bit frustrated there. He was only 2 Lotus Petals shy of being able to cast that Grizzlebrand.
Oh, dang it. Nothing but mana in hand as well. Meanwhile, Containment Priest is getting in there for those bear beats. Stoneforge Mystic here for Campuzano.
There we saw Campuzano use a nice shortcut. It's good to save time when you're playing games of Legacy where people are searching their library quite a bit. Sacrifice the fetch land, and there's the Stoneforge Mystic. Did he not find...
Is he looking in his sideboard?
He was looking at his sideboard to see if he had sideboarded out his other equipment. He does not see it. Oh, there it is.
Okay, okay.
So goes and finds himself a Batter Skull.
Another Lotus Petal down for Anghelescu, who I believe just found a Force of Will, I want to say. Land the draw for Campuzano, who, as it stands right now, is pretty firmly in control of this game.
Absolutely. It looks like he has some counter magic in hand, even if Anghelescu is able to put together some combo pieces.
Leovold, Emissary of Trest, hits the table for Campuzano.
And that's going to prompt a Force of Will here from Anghelescu. And what
just paying full cost, by the way.
For those of you who haven't played with Leovold, this card you don't see often if you don't play Legacy or Commander, maybe
anymore.
Yeah, it says that opponents cannot draw more than 1 card on a turn, and if you were a permanent that you control is targeted by a spell or ability that an opponent controls, you draw a card, or you may draw a card.
Yeah, this card is pretty mean.
A very nice card.
And if it's able to stick, puts you in a really excellent position. But as it stands, Campuzano is fine to just keep attacking with that 2/2. As Anghelescu just looks for anything.
And now Campuzano going to activate the Stoneforge Mystic on Anghelescu's end step. And that means it's only 2 turns of attacking from Campuzano before the match is his. So we see a Germ token. Ooh, it's the Transformer dinosaur. The promo. Yeah, I think it's one of the few cards that is not legal in any constructed format. Beep beep, Batter Skull coming in. Anghelescu falling to 5. And this is Anghelescu's 1 turn where he might be able to sneak in something that could find him victory, but seems incredibly unlikely, especially given the number of permanents and the life total of Campuzano. Even if Anghelescu is able to tear up some Eons here, I don't even know if that would be good enough.
Brainstorm here for Anghelescu, trying to find anything. But this Containment Priest has just about locked him completely out of the game. Excellent sideboard card here from Campuzano. Show and Tell, question mark?
So Campuzano going to go ahead and brainstorm a response, perhaps looking for an answer if he doesn't already have one. And he's going to hardcast that Force of Will. Even though he has the Containment Priest in play, just going to play around Omniscience just in case.
So Campuzano taking down that match 2-0 versus Jonathan Anghelescu. Just one more game win needed for his team, Kubin-Phan. Campuzano team. Let's check in on Modern here and see where we're at. All right, looks like Liliana's in play, Tassiger, the Golden Fang. We have a detention sphere on somebody. Death Shadow.
Now, worth noting that the blue-white deck is very soft to resolved planeswalkers. Liliana the Veil, not quite as powerful as some of the other ones when you resolve it in this matchup. However, still just a nightmare for Widjaja here. The thing about the blue-white deck is that it has very few ways to pressure opposing planeswalkers. So its really only clean answer is Detention Sphere. And sometimes Pithing Needle post-board. But
Detention Sphere, one of them at least already in use. There you get a look at Liliana of the Veil.
And one of the signature cards of the Modern format.
Absolutely.
For just 3 mana, these set of effects is just incredible. You can combine the +1 with things like Lingering Souls or a variety of other cards to turn it into perhaps maybe even a little bit of an advantage or a smaller disadvantage. And it's a card that can take over games quickly.
Another Death Shadow hitting the table here for Fawn, as well as Tassiger, the Golden Fang, getting in for 4. Liliana's discard. Widjaja pitches a Plains. Supreme Verdict here from Widjaja. It's good.
Yeah, and Fawn having played around Supreme Verdict in the previous game we had watched, chose not to there.
Rips the Death Shadow right off the top.
Oh, well, he had no cards in hand, so he wasn't that he wasn't playing around Supreme Verdict. He was going down to 0 cards and then plussing Liliana. It's a different story.
All right, we are going to activate our creature land, hit Liliana for 4.
And he needed to do that to prevent Liliana of the Veil from being able to use her ultimate ability on the following turn. Fawn now dealing himself a bit of damage here, making this Death Shadow even larger than it already is.
Draws a land for turn, able to grow that Death Shadow even more.
Yeah, gonna drop himself to 5 here, and 5 still safe from that colonnade on the other side of the table. The nice thing about 5 is that it means the Death Shadow has 8 power, and 16 is divisible by 8. So that means 2 attacks from that Death Shadow will be good enough to close the game, which I may end up having to chump block with colonnade next turn if he doesn't find something better to do.
Yeah, we've seen this sort of blue-white control land destruction deck, kind of mana denial deck, on the back foot and have a bit of a hard time getting off of it again.
Yeah, just last round we watched Seth Manfield use this same blue-white deck to do quite well against Reed Duke playing Death Shadow. But to show how your draws can drastically affect like how games play out in really interesting ways.
Oh, well, it looks like we have an update from... Oh, I saw it go to 2 and now back to 1 on that standard match up there on table A. Maybe a little bit early to call that one.
If Fawn's able to win this, his team becomes 6-0, which would mean that they've already secured a spot in the second day of competition here after only playing 6 rounds. Be pretty impressive for a gang of friends from
San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah.
All right, and just as you said, that Celestial Colonnade had to chump block that Death Shadow last turn. Tassiger joins the party here for Fawn.
They can go out and celebrate tonight by having some rice-a-roni, riding cable cars, doing all of the things that people from San Francisco are...
Eating sourdough.
Yes, very good.
And there is a handshake. A spreading seas was not able to find Widjaja any action. Fan takes this match as well, 2-0. Potentially a clean sweep up there if Cuban is able to close out their match, but they may just pack it up and say, you know what, we're done here. And we'll be heading to our time walk match in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. More round 6 after these messages.